Hello, Hazard from Massive Reviews here for a little Netflix review. Yes, it's a Netflix review, but well, considering the amount of praise this has gotten and the fact that the studio's next movie being released in theaters is coming out in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to do a retrospective of the other films very shortly. Orion and the Dark. I was when I heard that Dreamworks was releasing this film exclusively to Netflix, I was like, okay. I mean, I know. Look, I know when it comes to the failures that from last year of Ruby Gillman and Trolls band together. You can understand why DreamWorks would feel that way when it comes to new IPs, especially after how Ruby Gillman failed. But and this that just the release of that came out of nowhere, and it's all the same here. So I guess they didn't want to take the risk. With that said. I when I I still thought Ruby Gillman was okay. I mean, it wasn't special, but it was fine. Honestly, I think it's better than than Wish or Elemental. I even and I think Spider-Verse is better than that. But yeah, what I'm saying is it was better than what Disney released that year. As for Trolls, I have not seen that. Uh, and I will keep it, and I won't say any more as to my. And I have no plans on watching it yet. And yeah. But anyway, Orion in the Dark. It was interesting when I heard about this. Obviously, this isn't really. This was a collab between DreamWorks' main studio and an independent animation studio, and it was being written by Charlie Kaufman, who, if you know in terms of animation, was the director of the independent stop motion film Anomalisa, released back in 2015, which is probably one of the most adult anime movies you can ever find. I mean, not just in terms of stop motion, but the themes and story and everything about it. I can understand why it was called the most human film re released in 2015. It really was good. Going into this is going to be a little bit lighter, but it would explore themes and subjects that DreamWorks has still had to integrate more in their films since 2022. And you know what? Like I know, and everyone's been giving it a lot of praise since. Like this is pretty much. Um, I'm forgetting how many DreamWorks films. Well, that have a not above 90% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. There are a few, and obviously, many of the obviously there's their collaborations with Iron Man. There's Ants. There's the How to Train Your Dragon series. There's and of course Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. So I guess that makes it the eighth film that they've got a 95% rating, not over 90% rating. Yeah. Um, I feel it. This is a 90 rating. Um, I go that high with this, but I gotta say, Orion in the Dark is a really finally put together, really good, really well put together movie. In many ways, I wish this came out like this could have come out last year before Ruby and Trolls. Maybe it could have, if it had came out before him, maybe we could have actually seen it in theaters and do pretty well. But what is the story? So Orion is a young boy in elementary school, played by an already puberty hit Jacob Tremblay. Yeah, you can definitely tell that he's no longer got that high squeaky voice in his youth. He's definitely hit puberty by this, but he still brings enough charm to Kid Orion, which I'll get to that later. Who anyway, Orion is an absolute paranoid little boy who is afraid of absolutely everything, both in terms of both mental and physical things. Of course, his main fear is obviously the dark. So one night when he says he can't stand the dark, he absolutely he says he just can't stand the dark and will never stop being afraid of it. The the actual incarnation of darkness comes to greet Orion. he's had enough of people he's had enough of people always saying that they hate him, and is determined to correct, and is determined to try and wants to at least find someone who actually accepts him and likes him, him in general. So he makes a deal with Orion. He will try. He will for one night for 24 hours. He will take Orion with him in order to, you know, end his fear of darkness. Orion begrudgingly agrees, even though essentially he's being kidnapped by an unknown entity, and he goes on an adventure with Dark, exploring you know the good of night and darkness, as well as many other night entities that Dark works with. So yeah, of now this seems like a well, the story is pretty simple enough, and it seems like a story, people will tell a parent will tell their child, and that is essentially what exactly happens because when Orion is first taken away by Dark, we find out that this is actually a story that an adult Orion is telling to his own daughter. Um, it's kind of incredible. It's kind of incredible to actually bring that up very quickly. This is actually being a story told by someone else. However, if you think there's nothing more they can add to it after, there's actually an extra twist at the very end, and you can say it's predictable with what's going on, with what happens when this character shows up, but it's actually very touching. This could be of how it ties into you know family and passing things on. You know, I think the voice acting is pretty well done. I mean, I've already mentioned Jacob Tremblay and Angela Bassett as one of the night entities is really good, but I also really got to give credit to Dark's voice actor. For a while, I thought it could have been Seth Rogen geez, should I, should I bring up or just or well, or maybe Justin Roiland, even though I know that's not possible. Um, but whoever voiced Dark is really well done. I forget his name, add it in the comments so I can remember. Yeah, just let me know. The animation is really good. It has more of a crayon-esque drawing style to it, and I think it's really well considering what the story is about and what's going on with it. And the analyzation, but above all, the biggest theme of this is the analyzation is anxiety and fear, and both of these themes are handled really well in this. Obviously, both in terms of fear is mainly shown for Orion, while anxiety is mainly faced with Dark. Well, and both also have the other end as well. It's kind of how shocking, how relatable both of them are, and even when we finally see Orion's future daughter, and when adult Orion's telling her his story, um, it's kind of incredible to see just how many parallels there are, and different sort of things with that. And I think the pacing is really well done as well. Um, I will give there are some nitpicks I will have. First off, Light. People say he's a villain. He's not actually really a villain. Um, I like to pinpoint, though I will say this, he reminds me way too much of Metro Man in Megamind. Um, though he isn't really in it too much. But there are various instances, even the design. I get this feeling it's sort of a bit like Metro Man. I'm just saying. Oh, and just so you know, if you're thinking, if you want to know if I'm going to review Megamind and the Doom, recent Megamind sequel, uh, no, no, not yet. I don't even think it's on Netflix. Maybe it is. I don't know, but I don't plan on watching it yet. Yeah, well, yeah, I've heard the response about that. But anyway, that light is one issue. The other, I like the animation in general. The design of the night entities, I'm not a big fan of of all their looks. When it comes to the character designs, I feel like they look good, but the night entities, in particular, a couple, like one looks like a robot, another looks very Muppet-like, and there is a bit of a Muppet-like look to Dark, but it still works fine. And I'm not totally distracted by his look. But this night entity looks very much like, say, uh, I forget the Muppet that would always eat everything in the Vincent Price episode of the Muppet Show. Or I also see a bit of a Telly Monster or or actually no, Cookie Monster actually, not Telly. I see very much Cookie Monster in it, and I'm like, okay, I don't get it. Not all bits of humor is that it's not that funny, but I don't really think it's trying to be funny, this film. I also think it was the film was very slow at the beginning when it comes to Orion, seeing Orion, or when Orion's just going through talking about all his fears and everything at school and everything. I was like, okay, it could have been a little bit handled a little bit faster. Um, yeah, those are really the only nitpicks, but in general, I think Orion in the Dark is actually a really fine film. I was quite surprised when I started. It was getting praise. I was like, okay, I guess I'll give it a shot. But yeah, I'm impressed. I really am. Geez, Netflix and their animated movies that you think when you expect it to be, special, end up being quite well. I mean, last year was Leo. Now I think this year it's Orion in the Dark. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I will at some point review Leo. I promise you that. Um, but I think I've got some. But before then, I've got to stick with Dreamworks because the Kung Fu Panda 4 comes out, and I want to do a retrospective of the first three films in the next video I'll do. So yeah, that'll be next. Probably next week, actually. Yeah. But in terms of Ryan in the Dark, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 has stars. Not quite a 9, but I enjoyed it a lot, and I definitely think it's a fine film, and it's worth getting a watch. I think it's really good. Really good. So so I guess next time I'll see if my retrospective of the Kung Fu Panda films. But in the meantime, House of Masterpieces is out, and I shall see you for my next video. Ciao.